What is good, you guys? It's Lifestyle from LifeStyleDidIt.com, and in today's video we're going to be going over how to make your pads sound huge, how to make your pads sound nice and warm, just, you know, ambient, everything. We're going to be going over how to mix pads today. Pause. We're not talking about what you think we're talking about. We're talking about audio. So let's get straight into it. Let me put these headphones on. Alright, I made this progression, call it a chord progression, but I use pads obviously, and this is what it sounds like so far. Alright, so it does sound good, but I want it to have more body. I want it to sound bigger. I want it to have reverb on it. I want it to have some phase going on. So let's get straight into it. First, we're going to start off with some EQ. So like I said, it's lacking body. It sounds kind of thin. So first thing I'm going to do is go in here. I'm going to shelf out the super lows. But then I'm going to boost probably anywhere from about 200 to like 300, somewhere in there. There's going to be a lot of that body that I'm talking about. So let's just make narrow and go hunt for the frequency we're looking for, and then once we find it, we'll broadband the EQ, which means, you know, instead of having it narrow, we'll kind of open it up and make a smaller boost. Alright, so it's actually around 100. There's a lot of that bass that I like. So let me open this up and turn it down and narrow it in a little bit, but we kind of want to make it more of a mountain, not a steep cliff. We don't want to add too much because then it'll make it sound muddy. Alright, let's hunt out a little bit of frequencies around 500, 400 to 600, probably about 500 they're sounding. It's kind of making it sound boxy. So let's get those out of there. Alright, so what I did right here is just take out a little bit of high end. You see there's a lot of sizzle in this. But if we add too much high end, that makes things sound thin too. I kind of want these pads to be dark. So let me just take out a tiny bit, starting around probably 10K. Alright, so let's do before and after. Before. After. So we just added a tiny bit. We didn't do too much. We just added a tiny bit of warmness to the pads, a little bit of low end, and we kind of took out some of that mid-range buildup. So the next thing I'm actually going to add is supercharger. This is not a free plugin, but any distortion plugin will work, any saturation plugin. This is more of a compressor, but if you push it hard enough, it has a nice tone to it. So you could use tape emulations, you could use compressors, you can use distortion, just something that's not too aggressive. I like this with the dirt enabled, and then I'm going to kind of mix the wet and dry knob in. So this is kind of just going to push it a little more, give it more of like an analog feel. So we're just going to kind of mix that in. So let's do before and after. This is before. After. It already has a lot more body to it. Actually going to turn this up a little bit more. So the next thing we're going to add is a reverb. On the reverb, I don't want a lot of high end. I kind of want to have it more of just a low tone reverb. So let's bring the high cut way down. And actually I'm going to turn the dry off and I'm going to turn the wet up so I can only hear the reverb. And then I'll switch it around. But I want to hear just the reverb, what it's sounding like. So that's already sounding really good. Now let's turn up the decay a little bit. Go to dampening, make it a little darker. And then spread it out a lot. Mess with our early reflections a little bit. And then let's bring the dry back in and then mix in the wet knob. Alright, let's bring this down a tiny bit. And then the last thing I'm going to do for this one, we're actually going to duplicate it and do a little bit more on the other end. I'm going to add a little bit of a phaser. Oh, that's not the right one. And they call it a flanger. It kind of does the same exact thing. It's going to give it a little bit more movement. Alright, and then the next thing we're going to do, which is actually going to affect the pads a lot, is we're going to clone it. Now you could send it to a bus, you could do all types of things. Cloning is just going to be quicker for me right now, so Control C, Control V, and I'm going to call this deep pads, and over here I'm going to link it, and on this one we're going to affect it on its own completely different. We're going to cut out all the high end. Kind of make this high shelf, you know, not too steep. Cut out a little bit of low end. And then we're actually going to go in here and do another filter, fruity filter. And we're going to low pass a little bit. High pass a small amount. Just give it that super low end. And then we're going to add one more thing to this. What was I thinking? Let's see. Let's add a fruity chorus. Give it a little bit of that wobble. We're going to cut a little bit more low end out so it doesn't clash too much. But on these pads we're actually going to reduce it a small amount. So Control A and then drag these over. Alright, and now let's blend this in. So we have our first one right here. And then we have this deep one. See, it has a nice tone to it. So we're just going to blend that in. So let's turn it all the way down and blend it in. So without the dub that we did, it's a little thin. With it, so one more time without. with it right here. So this is what we had before. We just had these pads. And then when we add everything on, now the pads have that nice reverb tail, and they have that deepness to them. The deep pads that we duplicated and put on actually changed it, made it sound a lot better, made it sound like it had more depth to it and more width from the reverb. So this is how you can do, you know, a few minor adjustments to your pads. We're not completely changing them, we're just adding a bit of depth and width to our pads to make it sound bigger and more epic. If you guys like this tutorial, hit the thumbs up button for me, you know what I'm saying. You can follow me on all social medias at LifeStyleDidIt. Hit my website for everything else, LifeStyleDidIt.com. Other than that, subscribe to your boy.